What's going on, Washington fans? We are currently at the dead period of the offseason, but don't worry, training camp is coming up. They just announced some dates today where Washington will be reporting at the middle of July. And of course, things really kick off around the 21st and 22nd of July for training camp. And then they'll announce some dates for when it is open to the public. And then, of course, they also announced some joint practices with the Patriots and the Ravens as well. So a lot to look forward to. But we still have a lot to talk about as we get closer to training camp. Things that we have to keep an eye on. A couple storylines that we can kind of circle back to when training camp starts. Things that hopefully will be resolved by then. That, of course, I'll mention on this video. But for me, when it comes down to it, there's one position for Washington that really is the focus of all these storylines. There's not a lot going on, which is great news. You don't want to have a lot going on as a team that hasn't gotten a training camp yet. But there is a couple big things that we're waiting to get resolved. One we probably won't hear of until training camp starts, and then one hopefully is resolved by training camp. And that's the wide receiver position. We have Terry McLaurin with his contract. We have Noah Brown and his injury that he sustained at minicamp. Haven't heard anything about it. Talk about that as well. But as a Washington fan, should you be concerned with the current wide receiver room, with the depth, especially on the outside? Does Washington have enough bodies in the wide receiver room, or is it time to maybe talk about and consider bringing in a vet before training camp? So they know, the team knows the injury for Noah Brown, but we don't. So maybe they know exactly what will happen, and they'll kind of keep that under wraps until training camp happens. But you kind of have to think about it. So I'm going to look at what we had last year compared to what we have going into the season right now with the current situations, and then talk about maybe bringing in a veteran before the season starts. We see a couple teams bringing in some guys. Now, this is about the time where veterans on the outside will start to sign. Of course, Aaron Rodgers finally joined the Steelers, but this is about the time, not right now exactly, but about a week or two before training camp, where veterans will come in and join some teams and, get acclimated with the new teams and get used to their systems, whether it's offense and defense, and likely join a team as one of those one-year vets, which Washington could do on the defensive side of the ball as well. But when we talk about the wide receiver position, I want to share my screen and show you what Washington was going with. That's our depth chart for this year. But let's talk about last year real quick. Obviously, Terry was the leading receiver on the team. Just looking at the numbers, all 17 games. He had 82 catches for 1,096 yards and 13 touchdowns. So you just see the stats here. 13.4 yards per reception. Led the team in that category as well. We saw Terry going deep again. A lot of people were like, hey, has Terry lost his step? Has he lost that burst? Is he not as fast? No, Terry still has it. And he even showed us on a screen where against the Lions, where he just took it out of nowhere, and went up that left sideline for a touchdown. But 13 touchdowns, franchise record. Touchdowns in a season, 13. Love to see it. His longest was the 86-yarder. Terry with his contract situation, like I said, I'll kind of talk about that when we go look at our current depth chart. But then Zach Ertz. Is Zach Ertz the most underappreciated player for Washington? My answer is yes. I bet you a lot of people didn't know that he had 66 catches for 654 yards and 7 touchdowns last year and 38 first downs. Terry had 56 first downs, and Zach Ertz had 38. So he was second in line behind him as well. But just talk about, I know it's tight end, it's not wide receiver, but still, when it talks about the passing game, Zach Ertz is criminally underrated, being the second leading receiver on the team. And then to everyone's surprise, if you had told me this back in training camp last year, I remember being at training camp and I was watching everyone. I was like, man, Olamide Zaccheaus actually looks good in camp. I think he could be a sleeper to do something. Did I think it met the third highest, receiving yards on the team? Absolutely not. But once again, this is a guy that was brought in, a new addition last year, and really just took his spot and made a lot of it and produced more than I thought he would. 45 catches, 506 yards and 3 touchdowns, 26 first downs, third on the team in first downs as well. Obviously, he's not on the team this year. I think he went and signed with the Bears. I'm pretty sure it was the Bears. But so you're replacing your third, leading receiver from the team last year. So just keep that in mind. Maybe we upgraded. Let's take a look when we go over to the depth chart. And then number 4, Noah Brown, a guy that joined the team late. And like I said, 35 catches, 453. And of course, the one touchdown was the Hail Mary. You know, I didn't think he was going to do all that either. And he had 21 first downs as well. That's, to me, that's the ones I remember. 35 catches, and he had 21 first downs on that 35 catches. That's a lot. That's a high conversion rate. When you talk about for how many catches were actually for a first down. That's what I remember from Noah Brown. He was that reliable guy. Third down. Of course, he had a couple drops. He had a couple like bad plays here and there, but he'll be remembered for the Hail Mary. And of course, like I said, those first down ones, you can't forget about those. The third downs, the second down and longs, Noah Brown came up big. And a lot of times last year, that's not going to be talked about. Of course, he has his injury right now. Like I said, he got that at minicamp. Haven't heard anything about it yet either. So maybe you're also replacing your 4th leading receiver last year. And big surprise, Austin Ekeler, for those that don't know, was the 5th leading receiver for the team last year with 366 yards. And he also had 14 first downs. But, 35 catches for 366 yards, that's crazy. Considering that Deebo Brown, who everyone said, throw the bag, he should come back. He's a wide receiver too. He only had 30 catches for 308 yards and 1 touchdown. And just about all of that came at the end of the season. He had the 1 touchdown against, what was it, the Browns? I want to say it was against the Browns. That was earlier in the season, obviously. But those yardage and a lot of those catches came in the playoffs and just at the end of the season, but mostly in that playoff run. So he ended the season hot. That's great. But did absolutely nothing pretty much throughout the entire regular season. Austin Ekeler, who was out for a lot. Austin Ekeler only started 6 games. He played in 12. Deebo Brown played in 16 games. And Austin Ekeler, your running back, had more receiving yards than Deebo Brown. Then Luke McCaffrey didn't exactly have the rookie season that everyone expected. So everyone expected Luke McCaffrey to be above Deebo, possibly above Austin Ekeler, definitely. Maybe Deebo Brown as well. People expected, Luke McCaffrey to have that range of what Olamide Zaccheaus did, 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, because, the opportunity was there. But rookie year, played in 17 games, only started 4 though, but he got 18 catches on 24 targets, 168 yards, no touchdowns, but he came so close so many times. There was a lot of chances that Luke he got tackled within like the 3-yard line, 3 or 4 times last year. So it was there. And then, of course, Brian Robinson, your other running back, 20 catches, 159 yards. John Bates, 8 for only 84. You'd like to see that number go up. I know he's a fantastic blocker, but I would love to see some more receiving threat out of John Bates. He just got a really good contract. And then Jamison Crowder popped out 1 game, especially that Eagles game, 2 touchdowns, 72 yards, and 9 catches on the season out of nowhere, really late. And then my boy Ben Sinnott had 5 catches for 28 yards and his touchdown last year. So if you're looking at this, you're like, how did Washington make it to the NFC Championship game? What I'm seeing out of these numbers is Jayden Daniels is fantastic. Jayden Daniels is a generational quarterback, best rookie quarterback of all time. Terry, obviously, was the guy. But then after that, I think Zach Ertz is extremely underrated. But when it comes to the wide receiver room, you need Noah Brown to be healthy. You lost Olamide Zaccheaus. You lost Deebo Brown. Of course, we did upgrade. We made some changes as well. You're expecting a jump from, for Luke McCaffrey for what he had last season. Heck, even Trent Scott got a touchdown. Jaden's first touchdown of the season was Trent Scott last year. But just want to look at that and really compare what Washington had last year. It is just insane to me how much production they got out of Olamide Zaccheaus, Noah Brown, Austin Ekeler in the backfield, and I think Deebo Brown. He got a decent amount of production. Should have been way more. But I'm looking at Olamide Zaccheaus and Noah Brown, those 2 guys. Who was going to get that almost 1,000 yards of receiving and 4 touchdowns. It could be even more. It could be even more because, like I said, Luke McCaffrey, Jaden's probably going to get more passing yards this year. Who knows? But just overall, that's what Washington had to really replace this offseason. So let's take a look at their current depth chart, where it is obviously different in a very positive way, if you ask me. Obviously, you got Terry with his contract situation, Noah Brown. They have Deebo in the slot. I don't think Deebo is the slot guy. I think Deebo's an outside receiver guy, so I disagree with him here. I think it's Terry, Deebo, and then you have your slot, which could either be Jalen Lane, the rookie out of Virginia Tech, or Luke McCaffrey going into his second season. Whoever takes that job over in training camp, in the rest of the offseason and preseason, every opportunity, doesn't matter. It could come down to the wire where we don't know week one who the starting slot wide receiver is. It could be that close. If Luke McCaffrey takes the jump that he's expected to, it could be a close race. I know a lot of people are high on Jalen Lane. I am really high on Jalen Lane. I think he's your starting punt returner. I think he's your starting kick returner. They called him the best punt returner in the entire draft. So it would not surprise me if he's for sure locked in to be your special teams returner. But that race for slot receiver, I think Jalen Lane, currently right now, if I'm playing this Sunday coming up, Jalen Lane's my starting slot wide receiver because I think he's that good. I just want to see what Luke McCaffrey looks like. And I'm gonna circle back on Luke. That does not mean, bury Luke, in the depth chart, whatever, by any means. So just remember that. Then you have Chris Moore, who Zach Selby said he really stood out this offseason with, OTAs and minicamp. He was one of the 3 guys he mentioned that stood out to him the most in minicamp. Very surprising. And then Michael Gallup, obviously former Dallas Cowboy coming out of retirement. Talk about him as well. Ja'Cory Brooks, in my opinion, one of the best UDFA signings in the league this year. I was really high on Ja'Cory Brooks. I got to scout him this past offseason while he was at Louisville. Watched a couple of his games. And then, of course, KJ Osborne, who was added last season. What does a full offseason look like now that KJ Osborne can just be, on this team? And didn't, showed up super late last year, barely was active. But once again, what do you expect from a guy that just came in super late, didn't know the team, didn't have any connection with the quarterback, didn't know Cliff's, complex offense by any means? There's just a lot going on. And then you have some depth guys with Jacoby Jones, another UDFA, Mike Strachan, and then Kazmir Allen. So let's start with the most important. Let's stay hydrated with the Washington Cup, by the way. Got to stay hydrated because I like to yap a lot. Terry McLaurin, his contract situation. Every single day, I get on any kind of social media. Doesn't matter. Instagram, I see it. Today is a good day to pay Terry. Of course, every day is a good day to pay Terry. But my stance has been that big deals don't get done in June. Yes, you'll see some 1 year, 2 year, small deals, 3 year, whatever. We saw Rashad Bateman get paid. That was nothing. That was a chip off of a large stone that Terry is going to be getting. That was a cheap, fake gold chain. And Terry getting one of these, one of the real deals. He's not getting that thing you got off of Jackson that you see like the ads for. He's going, I think I got this at K. Every kiss begins with K. Terry going to K. Okay? Terry's getting his. So you're not going to see these big deals. And I'm not even just him. TJ Watt is another guy that needs to get paid. There's a bunch more, Lamar's going to get extended. He's probably going to get another contract. That could happen before. That might happen in July. Who knows? But there's a couple players, Trey Hendrickson. That's been going on for a long time, though, so who knows? That could happen at any time. But a lot of these big deals get done beginning of July, mid-July, before training camp starts. Terry's last deal happened beginning of July. It wasn't June 20th or even today, June 18th. Terry's not getting paid today or tomorrow or the 20th. My birthday is July 2nd. So if he wants to kick things off and get paid July 2nd, awesome. I'll be at the beach the week after that. So if Terry, I would like for the deal to get done before then. That would be nice to not have to deal with that while I'm on vacation, but we'll see. I think realistically, it's going to happen sometime between my birthday and by the time I leave for the beach. I think that's when it's going to happen. Somewhere between July 2nd, and I think veterans report for training camp. The NFL sent out an email to the communications. Washington rookies report on July 18th. Veterans. So that's the important day. Veterans show up and report on the 22nd. So a few days after the rookies. Some teams do it the same day. Some teams do it the next week. Whatever. Washington has it on the 18th for rookies and 22nd for veterans. Then, by the way, I kind of dropped this in the beginning, but joint practices, Washington's going to New England on August 6th for a joint practice, and then they're hosting the Ravens on August 21st in Ashburn. But deal's going to be done by then. I truly think you're looking at that timeline beginning of July for Terry. So ignore all these articles and videos of people saying, oh, he's getting traded to the Patriots. He's getting traded to the Steelers. He's getting traded to the Cardinals. Blockbuster trade in them. It's not going to happen. If Terry gets traded, I will get a neck tattoo. If Terry McLaurin plays on any other team next year, I will get a neck tattoo of the other team's logo. There's no way Terry's getting traded. And, they've said recently that Washington feels really good about this. I know shout out to Lake Lewis. Lake Lewis put something out where he said he feels like Washington feels good about how things are going. Like I said, now's the time. This is not the time to freak out. I don't freak out until July 22nd, that morning when I'm driving to training camp and Terry's not there. That's when I start to freak out. But he's not getting traded. That's the least of my worries. So we have like a month until you have to actually start freaking out. But right now is the dead period. So, of course, I'm guilty of it too. If I was writing for the Cardinals, if I was writing for the Patriots, if I was writing for the Steelers, in this dead period of the offseason, this is a great time to write an article of why you should trade for Terry McLaurin and why it's going to happen, even though it's not. So just ignore it. Don't get mad at it. People have a job to do. I respect it. Cheers to them, but it's not going to happen. Terry will be playing for the Washington Commanders next season. So enough of that. Now to Noah Brown. And I said this last week. I'm honestly more concerned with Noah Brown's injury than I am Terry McLaurin's contract. What I mean by that, I'm not saying, Terry's contract is not as important or impactful. It definitely is. That's number one priority for the team. But I feel so confident that Terry is going to get paid. I don't know. I'm not confident in the Noah Brown injury because it did not sound good at all at the time. We haven't heard anything. So I don't have anything to go off of to say, oh, he's fine. Oh, he'll be ready by training camp. Oh, he'll miss 6 weeks of the season, whatever. We haven't heard anything. And I get, mentioned on Twitter at least once a day. People are like, Josh, we haven't heard anything on Noah Brown. Does that mean it's good news or does that mean it's bad news? Does that mean it's no news? And I can confidently say it's no news. We don't know if it's good news or bad news yet. The team knows. The team knows what's going on. I know he has an event Friday back at his old high school. He's like talking and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see if he posts anything to where, like, is he wearing a brace? Is he wearing a cast? Like, is he fine? Is he walking? Like, what? He's not going to be out there like playing football or anything. Obviously, like he'll be talking and, signing autographs, stuff like that, talking to the kids and stuff, which I love to see, by the way. A lot of these guys are. Deebo's doing it all over Virginia, DC's and like Charlottesville. Like this week, he's all over the place. I love when players do that, especially, guys that aren't from here and, stuff like that. But Noah Brown's going back home. So I want to see what he looks like when he's there. Well, I'm going to be checking Instagram to see what he posts. But like for me, it's no news. There's no practices. There's no media availability. There's no interviews from now to when training camp really kicks off and people start reporting. Like I said, July 18th is when rookies report. That is probably the next time we will hear from anybody on the team or see a player on the Ashburn practice field. July 18th. So we have a month from today. That is the next time. So there's no need for the team to come out and say, Noah Brown's out for the season or Noah Brown's banged up for the next 3 weeks. There's no need. There's no need to talk about it or disclose anything. Completely understand, not saying anything. It makes sense. I wouldn't, whether it's good or bad. You don't have to, so don't do it. Even if it's like a hangnail and they said, oh, he's fine, I'm not going to say anything. I don't care. So for me, I'm not saying anything about Noah Brown's injury if I'm the team, and I don't think they will. But in the back of my mind, I feel like if it was very, very severe and it was a season-ending injury, I feel like the national media would have gotten a hold of it somehow. Somebody would have said something, or it would have come out. But who knows? Maybe they're just hushed lips on this. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe he's fine. We have zero clue. And then, of course, they add Deebo Samuel, trade him for a 5th-round pick around the time of the combine. Your boy was on that one. Love this. I think this is one of the most impactful signings of the entire offseason. So we go back and we talk about, you got to replace Olamide Zaccheaus' production. You got to replace, Dyami Brown's production. You have to kind of make that up. You want to take some, I'm not saying take away from Austin Eckler, but is Austin Eckler going to have 366 receiving yards next year? Probably not. Is Jaden Daniels going to have more passing yards than he did last year? Very, very well should. I think he will. And I think a lot of that's going to go to Deebo Samuel. You're going to see him in the slot. You're going to see him primarily on the outside, in my opinion. You'll see him in the backfield. You'll see him used all over the place. You'll see him run the ball, quick screens, these quick passes where Jaden and Cliff thrived last year. Passes of 10 to 19 yards last year was where Jaden was at the top of the league. No one could touch Jaden in those short passes that went for big gains. But the 10 to 19 yard range, that is where Jaden and Cliff were feasting last year, and that is where Deebo can do some serious damage. Do I think Deebo will outproduce Terry McLaurin? No, but I think it's going to be a closer race than people expect. When we come back and look at all-purpose yards, knock on wood, Deebo stays healthy this season. I think he will, praying he does. I think he's in great shape, by the way. Ignore all this chatter online. Deebo looks great. Deebo is in shape. He is at his weight where he needs to be. I've had that confirmed. I talk to his personal chef all the time. Shout out to my boy Dre. He got Deebo right. Deebo looks good. Deebo's going to do some big things this season. I cannot wait for Deebo. I have not seen as much slander from a player that didn't do anything bad to the team. Did he want to be traded? Sure. But did the 49ers have any plans of making him, a long-term plan of theirs for the future? No. It was a mutual kind of breakup. Nothing bad about it. I have no idea why 49er fans hate Deebo so much. When last year McCaffrey got hurt and Ayuk was out, Deebo was playing through pneumonia. Deebo was the offense last year. So I'm just confused why 49ers fans hate him so much. And of course, Eagles fans, everyone else is going to throw easy jabs at him and just, whatever. I ignore all that. Deebo's going to do crazy stuff this year. If you told me by the end of the season Deebo's going to have 800, 900, even 1,000 all-purpose yards, I would not be surprised. I think Deebo's going to get back to his self and what he wants to do. This is a prove-it year for Deebo. I think he gets a bigger contract next year. After this season plays out, I could see a 3-year contract after he plays well. I'm excited to see what Deebo does. I mean, if you look at production, I say 800 catching yards, 200 rushing yards, and I'm going to say 9 total touchdowns for Deebo. Would not surprise me. And then he gets paid. So I feel good about Deebo. You have him, let him stay healthy. He's your other outside wide receiver, but he is going to move all over the place. So he could be lined up in the slot. I don't think he's going to start in the slot, though. I think it's going to come down to Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey. Like I said, I was going to talk about these two. Jalen Lane, already mentioned his special teams and stuff like that. I think this guy was underutilized at Virginia Tech in their offense. I think Jalen Lane fits them perfectly on offense as well. You have Deebo spreading out the field. You have Terry going deep, and he's spreading and putting pressure on the back end of the defense. I talked about the middle of the field. I talked about that 10 to 19 yard range. Jalen Lane can also kill you deep. but he can take these quick passes across the middle of the field and turn them into gigantic plays. But do not be surprised when you see some slot fades and some seam routes, some up the middle from the slot from Jalen Lane this season, and he's just booking it up that inside hash. Do not be surprised when Jalen Lane puts the burners on and starts running some go routes from that slot, or even in some posts in the slot. Don't be surprised. But I think right now, until I'm shown different, and I'll be at every single practice, so I'll have a report. I think Jalen Lane is a starting slot guy right now. So I think it's going to be Terry week 1 on the left side, right side, whatever. Left side, Terry. Right side, Deebo. And then Jalen Lane lines up in the slot on whichever side, obviously formation and stuff. But Luke McCaffrey, something interesting with Luke McCaffrey. I am expecting a big season from him. But Luke McCaffrey, I don't think people really realize he's 6'2", about 200 pounds. That was, that's what the team has listed. I don't know when they updated this, but 6'2", 200 pounds. Maybe he put on a couple more pounds this offseason. Who knows? That's a big slot guy. Luke McCaffrey can also play on the outside. He played on the outside at Rice. I saw him at the Senior Bowl doing it. He can play on the outside. I don't want people to think he's just some slot limited, Tank Dale kind of wide receiver. He's not at all. He has the size and athleticism to play on the outside as well. So, if Noah Brown is hurt, I feel like I want to do the win horse. If Noah Brown is hurt, do not be surprised when you see Luke McCaffrey getting some more outside wide receiver snaps to potentially be that wide receiver 3 on the outside behind Deebo, behind Terry. Don't be surprised if Noah Brown is hurt. Not even, for the season. But if he's not ready by training camp, don't be surprised when you hear me start reporting and doing videos and writing articles saying, hey guys, Luke McCaffrey was getting a lot of snaps on the outside today with the absence of Noah Brown. Just get ready for that. But, even with Noah Brown, if he is healthy, don't be surprised if Luke McCaffrey gets more outside reps because he has the size and he has the speed. He can push down the field. He can do these short, comeback routes. He can do digs, whatever. I think Luke can play on the outside, but also you need some depth in the slot, behind Jalen Lane if he ends up being your starting slot wide receiver. But it's good. That is how you see more Luke McCaffrey. That is how you get the opportunity to get on the field more and build a rapport with Jaden. You give you create opportunities. Hey guys, I'm not just a slot guy. So even if Jalen Lane is the starting slot guy, I'm not just on the sideline like, hey, I'll rotate in when it's my time. No, I can also play on the outside. Don't be afraid to pull me out there. It's driving me nuts that Our Lads has all these ads and bouncing my screen all over the place. Put me on the outside too. Noah Brown needs a breather. Deebo, Terry needs a playoff. Pull me out there on the outside. I don't care. I can do it too. So I want to see more Luke McCaffrey obviously develop into a wide receiver. He only played wide receiver for 2 years at Rice. Played 1 year in the NFL last year. Obviously, it's going to take some time to get acclimated and really come to his own as a wide receiver, a professional wide receiver. So I want to see more of that. His routes look good. I want to see it get better. His hands look good. I want to see it get better. His athleticism looks great. I want to see it get better. I just want to see Luke take a step up. But the way to get on the field is make yourself more available. Not just in the slot, but on the outside as well. So I think Jalen Lane could be your slot guy, but that does not mean this is the end of Luke McCaffrey. People saying, oh, Luke McCaffrey could be a surprise cut. You need to cut that out. Cut the bull crap. Luke McCaffrey is not getting cut off this team this year. Luke McCaffrey is not getting traded this season. Luke McCaffrey is arguably your 5th best wide receiver on the team. And possibly 4th if Noah Brown is hurt. And like I said, Chris Moore, not too sure what to expect of him, but he's making the most of his opportunities so far with OTAs and minicamp. Obviously things ramped up in minicamp, and that's where he looked good to guys like Zach Selby, who covers the team. So Chris Moore, when training camp starts up, he's a guy I have circled. What does Chris Moore look like? Can he be a guy that just comes out of nowhere for Washington? And then we have to talk about the depth. Michael Gallup has been battling an injury. He did not practice at minicamp. I want to say it was a hamstring. Is it a hamstring or a calf? I want to say it was a hamstring. But still, retired last year, didn't play last year, comes back. I don't want to say you expected this, but the injuries he's kind of dealt with. But then also when you take that much time off, you don't play, and then you're just kind of going out there. I want to see Michael Gallup get healthy. The best thing that can happen to this team is you get, 60, 70% of the Michael Gallup we saw, the good Michael Gallup that we saw in Dallas. I think that helps a ton. If you're worried about depth, a healthy Michael Gallup that can get you 400, 500 yards, 3-4 touchdowns this season, that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. 400, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. Be the Olamide Zaccheaus this year. Noah Brown, maybe, because he had 453. I want to see some more touchdowns. But, like I said, I think Deebo's going to blow 506 out the water. I think he's going to blow 3 out the water. I think it's going to be, like I said, closer to 8 and maybe 6, 7 passing touchdowns or receiving touchdowns, I should say. But Michael Gallup, just be Olamide Zaccheaus for me. I don't want to say De'Ami Brown because he didn't do much last year at all throughout the regular season, so I don't want to say that. I want more. If Michael Gallup can do that, fantastic. But once again, do not be surprised. Ja'Cory Brooks can take the top off of a defense big time. Wasn't the fastest guy, but he still could stretch the field. He had a lot of explosive plays at Louisville last year that really impressed me. Obviously, watched him in Alabama as an Alabama fan, but when he went to Louisville, I saw more Ja'Cory Brooks. I really liked his route running. I loved his hands. I loved his speed. Playing speed is different than 40 times speed, by the way. But Ja'Cory Brooks can create big plays. So the one thing, in my opinion, they got better at, and then KJ Osborne, like I said, I'll just say this real quick, didn't do much last year at all, did nothing. I would say nothing last year. But a full offseason, this is a guy who can produce. And this is a guy that actually had to scout for the scouting academy when he was with Minnesota. And I actually really liked his game. I really liked KJ Osborne. There's a couple plays where I was like, But there's a couple plays where I was like, okay, KJ Osborne is a legit weapon. So don't sleep on him. But I want to see KJ Osborne have a full offseason, not just joining the team, late in the season and then just kind of like flopping. But we'll see what he looks like. But the one thing that really impressed me this offseason with the wide receiver room that the team addressed, and this has been my thing for the entire team. We had to revamp the entire roster going in, last offseason, not the one that just passed, but the one before last season. We had to just rip it apart. We got to fix the upper of a house. We had to fix the foundation. We had to put new flooring in. We had to fix the roof. We had to fix the floors. We had to fix the basics. We couldn't put, the Sterling, the fancy appliances in yet. We couldn't put the matte finish oven in yet. We couldn't use, we couldn't go get the fridge that has the smart screen on it where it shows you the food inside. Who needs that, by the way? Just open the door. You couldn't get all that last year. We couldn't even paint the walls. We were stuck with an ugly yellow wall at a couple positions last year. But we had to fix the foundation. We had to fix the front porch so you can even get inside. There was leaks in the roof. We had to fix that. There was holes in the wall. We had to fix that too. It was just bad. The plumbing was bad. We had leaks all over the place. We had to create a brand new house base to build off of. And hey, one thing we did get, I will say, we got a hell of a TV in the living room with Jaden Daniels. I'm talking 4K. We at least did that. That was top priority. Jaden Daniels fixes a lot of stuff. Maybe not TV. I could have picked something better. But Jaden helps everything out so much. It made the laminate countertops look nicer in the wide receiver room. We had a couple of laminate countertops. We didn't have granite, but we got granite now. We got Deebo. So this offseason, we were able to update the house some more. So I want people to think about it in that way. Last year, gutted it out. It was still kind of ugly in a lot of spots. Defensive line on the outside, This year, who knows what we got? I think it'll be good. Wide receiver room, like I said, we upgraded. We got Wi-Fi in the house now. But what I really like is that they got younger too. Jalen Lane, Ja'Cory Brooks, Jacoby Jones, who knows? But just adding guys that could be legit playmakers with Jalen Lane. I think Ja'Cory Brooks makes the team. I like that. I'm not saying Deebo's like young. I'm not saying he's old either. But we got somebody that can produce. I know we had to sign a lot of free agents. We had to make a lot of, big time changes last season just to get a team going. But this year, we made some drastic improvements. Josh Conley Jr., Jalen Lane, Jacoby Krosky-Merritt, Cade Madrano. If you want to look at defense, Trey Amos. Really good room. And, still got a guy like Javon Kinlaw who's younger. Still got a guy like Will Harris on defense. But but trading for Laramie Tunsil, trading for Deebo is great. I love it. But I also want to see more of this younger core. And I think Washington did that, especially in the wide receiver room with Jalen Lane and Ja'Cory Brooks. And then obviously Luke McCaffrey is still young. So I think Washington did improve in the wide receiver room. Should they sign a free agent? Right now, I say no. Now, if Noah Brown is out for the season, maybe you bring somebody in. But my thing is, whoever you sign, it's not going to be like, well, if they end up being a depth player, they end up being a depth player. Amari Cooper is not going to want to come in and be like a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. He's going to want to be out there with Terry and Deebo at the same time. He's going to want to be one of the top guys. Because Amari Cooper, it's Coop. So if it's not him, Keenan Allen, but he's another guy. He's not going to be your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. It's not worth it for him at that point. It's not worth it. The only one that really makes sense to me that I don't think they have to be a starting guy is a guy that's made some visits and surprisingly hasn't been signed, but he fits that Noah Brown type. That's Gabe Davis. I think if Washington does sign somebody, it should be Gabe Davis. It wouldn't be Keenan Allen. He can play on the outside, sure, but for me, he's primarily a slot guy, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Not a good blocker. Same with Amari Cooper. He's an outside guy, great, but just doesn't really fit what they're looking for. I think he'd be my second choice. But I think first one would be Gabe Davis. He is younger. I think he's 26, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a great blocker. He's a great red zone threat. I think he can stretch the field more than Amari Cooper at this age and what Keenan Allen can do. I'm not saying Gabe Davis is some fantastic wide receiver. Oh, I'm surprised he hasn't been signed. I am kind of surprised no one's picked him up, especially a team like the Steelers and the Saints and some of these teams he's visited. But I think if you're looking for, hey, this is the piece, this is the job, this is the responsibility Noah Brown had, we need someone to fit that role, to fit that job description. If you're applying for a job to be, let's just say you're a painter, keeping it on the house. You're a painter. You're not going to hire a plumber to paint. You're going to hire a painter. So you're not going to replace Noah Brown with Keenan Allen. Unless you think you have a painter that can help the plumber paint, in the depth of your depth chart, then sure be it. But that's a good plumber. He's not going to come in and be like, I don't want to paint. You want me to be an outside blocker? You want me to be like a red zone threat? That's not Keenan Allen. That's not what he does. You want me to be that bigger body guy that can, get these third down conversions and such and, be that guy in the run game? You don't want Keenan Allen to be like, he comes in the game and everyone's like, oh, it's a pass. Obviously, he's not going on the outside, being an outside wide receiver to block. This is a pass for sure. With Noah Brown, that's how it is. He's out there for runs. He's out there for catching too. He's that bigger body guy. He's, he could be a red zone threat type of dude. But I think Gabe Davis fits it best of what Noah Brown, his job is on this offense. So that's the only one that makes sense to me. But do I think Washington will do it? As of right now, I don't think so. But if Noah Brown's out for the season, and let's just say Michael Gallup doesn't get healthy, and they just don't have anyone else step up behind Terry, Deebo, Jalen Lane, and Luke McCaffrey, and they just have those 4 guys, then yeah, that might be the time to start doing it. So obviously, a lot of things have to kind of decide out between now and then. We have to figure out what happened to Noah Brown and how bad it is. And then we need Michael Gallup to get healthy as well. But then also, what can Ja'Cory Brooks do? What can KJ Osborne do for me? And I think KJ Osborne is more of that slot guy too. I liked how the Vikings used him. I feel like that's how he needs to be used more of. He can play on the outside as well, but I think him in the slot bodes well for KJ Osborne. And then Ja'Cory Brooks for me is an outside wide receiver all day. Same with Michael Gallup. But I think Washington's good. Obviously, a lot to keep an eye on. But we have a little bit of time before training camp starts up. So I'll be doing videos like this until I have a couple more streams. My last time here on these Bleacher Report streams, by the way, is the end of June. I just took a full-time job with a company covering Washington that I cannot announce yet. So I'm going to kind of keep that on wraps. But I start that July 16th before training camp, but I got to do some other stuff, beginning of the month and stuff like that. But super stoked to get that going. But until then, y'all see me pop up on Bleacher Report on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock Eastern time to keep talking about some things for the Washington Commanders. And then also on my YouTube channel, JTFB, and social media, Josh Taylor FB. So appreciate everyone for checking out the video, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.